I never thought silence could feel so loud. My room was quiet, too quiet, except for the soft hum of my guitar strings still buzzing from the last absent-minded strum. I hadn't been able to finish the song, not tonight. The notebook on my desk sat open with half-scribbled lyrics, messy arrows circling words I didn't like, underlines that led nowhere. I leaned back against the chair, staring at the ceiling. The night sky beyond my window had its usual veil of city haze, but if I squinted hard enough, I could see a handful of stars clinging stubbornly above the rooftops. I thought of Lila again, because I always did when I looked at the stars. It was stupid, maybe, but we used to call ourselves twin stars. No matter how far, no matter what, we rise together. That was the deal. My phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Then it rattled like it had a heartbeat of its own. Group chat. Band talk. I reached for it, expecting something dumb like another meme from David. But the notifications stacked one after the other, names lighting up like fireworks. When I unlocked the screen, the first thing I saw was Lila's name. Lila, exciting news. Just accepted Adrian's offer for the showcase next month, gonna perform solo. Glowing star microphone sparkles. And beneath it, a rush of replies. Mara, OMG Lila, that's huge. Congrats girl, 2 hearts. Jonas, knew you were gonna get noticed, fire. Adrian, she deserves the spotlight, winking face, this is just the beginning. My thumb hovered over the screen. The words blurred. For a second, I thought I'd misread them. I even locked the phone, blinked hard, then opened it again. Same message. Same glittering emojis. Same absence of my name. Solo. She said solo. We had planned the showcase together. Every rehearsal, every late-night run-through, every lyric scribbled in the margins of my notebook, it was ours. We weren't perfect, but we were building something real. Something we promised we'd carry together into whatever came after graduation. But she hadn't even told me. Not a word. Not a single warning. My chest tightened, sharp and cold. David, wait. Solo. Thought you and Elias were doing the duo set. There it was, the single thread of sanity in the entire circus. No answer from Lila. The typing bubbles appeared, blinked, disappeared. Then Adrian's reply popped up instead. Adrian, plans change. This is her moment. Trust me. And Lila liked his message. I dropped the phone onto my desk as if it had burned me. My palms were sweating. My fingertips, ice cold. I didn't want to believe it, but belief wasn't optional anymore. My eyes went to the corner of the room where my guitar leaned against the wall, stickers peeling at the edges from years of use. The sight of it felt cruel. I picked the phone back up and opened our private chat. The one that used to be alive with 2 a.m. voice notes, half-finished song drafts, stupid selfies after rehearsals. The last message there was mine, can't wait for the showcase, it's gonna be the start of everything. She had just sent a thumbs up emoji. That was 2 nights ago. I scrolled back further. Past the memes. Past the arguments over whether to play the chorus twice. Past the photos of lyric sheets spread across diner tables. Then I found it, one of those voice notes from 2 summers ago. I tapped it. Her voice filled the room, young and certain, laughter in the edges of every word. Eli, we'll make it together. I don't care if we're broke or nobody listens, we're gonna rise like stars. You and me. Always. I stopped halfway. The sound cracked inside me, like glass under too much weight. I closed my eyes. And just like that, I was back there, lying on the grass in her backyard, both of us staring up at the sky. We'd counted stars until we lost track, promising each other we'd never drift apart. I could still hear her whisper, stars don't leave each other, they burn side by side. But tonight, she left me. I tried typing a reply in the group chat. So you just decided this without telling me? I deleted it. Congrats. Guess I was just the rehearsal guy. Deleted. My reflection stared back from the darkened phone screen. Eyes red, jaw clenched, a version of me I didn't want to meet. What was the right thing to say? Anger? Sadness? Silence? In the end, I sent nothing. The night pressed in. My room felt too small, the air too thin. I stood and walked to the window, pushing it open. The city sprawled beneath me, restless and glowing. Cars honked, lights blinked, music drifted faintly from some distant bar. And above it all, faint stars flickered in stubborn defiance of the city glare. Small. Fragile looking. But steady. I gripped the window frame, my knuckles white. Stars don't betray each other, I thought bitterly. They don't break promises for glittering stages or smooth-talking strangers. People do. For the first time in years, I hated the sight of stars. I sat back down, dragging the guitar into my lap. My fingers rested on the strings, but the music didn't come. Not tonight. Instead, I opened the group chat again and screenshot everything: the congratulations, Adrian's smirk of a message, Lila's glittering announcement. Evidence of a moment I couldn't erase. Maybe someday I'd delete them. But tonight, I needed the wound to stay open. Because wounds reminded you what mattered. I set the phone aside and stared at the stars one last time. Out there, the night sky still burned steady. But inside me, something had gone dark. Morning crept in like an unwelcome guest, flooding my room with pale sunlight I wasn't ready to face. My eyes felt gritty from too little sleep. I'd tossed and turned until dawn, replaying every word of that group chat like it was a broken record I couldn't shut off. The phone still sat on my desk where I'd left it, screen dark, accusing. I didn't dare touch it. I knew the messages were still there, waiting to scrape me raw again. I rubbed my face, trying to shake the heaviness in my chest. No good. The silence pressed harder than last night. I turned toward my guitar, lying where I'd abandoned it. For a second, I thought about strumming something, anything, just to fill the void. But my fingers felt stiff, reluctant. Instead, I let myself sink backward into memory. Lila and I were 11 the first time we called ourselves a band. It was a summer night, sticky with heat, cicadas buzzing like a cheap amplifier in the trees. She'd stolen her brother's notebook, bright red, scuffed on the corners, and we sprawled on her backyard grass under a sky smeared with stars. She tapped her pen against her chin, her ponytail swishing. Okay, Eli, what rhymes with fire? Wire? I offered. She wrinkled her nose. Too boring. What about desire? I laughed, half embarrassed. That sounds like one of those soap operas my grandma watches. Fine. She scribbled it down anyway, big looping letters. We'll make it cool. The song we wrote that night was terrible. Every rhyme was forced, every melody stolen from songs we half remembered off the radio. But we sang it anyway, voices cracking, laughing so hard the neighbors shouted at us to shut up. And for us, that was magic. Our first real performance came a year later at the middle school talent show. We wore matching black t-shirts I'd begged my dad to buy, and we called ourselves Starlight Noise. The name was Lila's idea. She always had a thing for stars. When we walked on stage, my knees shook so badly I thought I'd collapse. The cafeteria-turned-auditorium smelled like popcorn and dust. Kids in the front row jeered, but Lila just grinned at me like the whole place was ours. We strummed and sang off-key, our timing a disaster, but when the final chord rang out, we bowed like rock stars. Nobody clapped except David, who hooped so loud the principal frowned at him. But afterward, when Lila and I hid backstage, sweat-soaked and breathless, she whispered, "We did it. First of many." And I believed her. The memory faded, leaving me alone again in my quiet room. My throat ached like I'd been singing all night. I used to think our dream was built on nights like those. But maybe it was just me clinging to them harder than she ever did. Another memory slipped in, the softer kind, one that hurt differently. My mother's hands on the piano keys. Her voice hummed low as she guided mine. I was 8, sitting beside her, my feet dangling far from the floor. "Listen, Eli," she'd said, her voice calm but certain. "A song should be more than noise. It should outlive you." Her fingers played a simple progression, and I tried to follow, fumbling. "Outlive me?" I'd asked. "Yes." She smiled, eyes warm. "If you play it with honesty, someone will hear it years from now and still feel you. That's what music is, it's a memory you can touch." She died 2 years later. Cancer. Too fast, too cruel. But her words stuck like anchors inside me. Every time I picked up a guitar, every lyric I scrawled in the margins of my notebooks, it was her voice I chased. Not fame. Not applause. Just something that could last. Something real. That's what cut deepest about Lila's betrayal. Not just that she left me. Not just that she chose Adrian. It was that she chose something shallow. Fame for the sake of being seen. Spotlight without substance. And the girl who once whispered about stars that never left each other, had left me in the dark without a second thought. I sat on the edge of my bed, elbows on my knees, staring at the floorboards. Had I been fooling myself all this time? Was our dream ever really shared? Or had I just built my life around someone who was never meant to stay? The thought stung. But beneath the sting was something else. A flicker. The truth was, my dream existed before Lila. It existed in my mother's piano chords, in the shaky first songs I wrote alone, in the way music made me feel alive even when the world pressed too heavy. Lila had been part of it, yes. An important part. But not the whole. And maybe that meant I could still carry it forward without her. I reached for my guitar again. This time, my hands didn't shake. The strings were cold under my fingertips, but the sound came anyway, a single note, ringing clear in the quiet. Then another. A progression my mother used to play. I hummed along, low at first, the words forming slowly. Stars can fall, but light remains, echoes linger through the pain. It wasn't finished. It wasn't even good. But it was mine. For the first time since last night, I felt something break open inside me, not just grief, but a stubborn pulse of determination. Because if Lila could choose fame, I could choose something else. Something real. Something that would last. The sunlight shifted across my desk, lighting up the old notebook where half-scribbled lyrics waited. I pulled it closer, pen in hand. The ink bled fast as I scrawled down the new lines, raw and unpolished but honest. This was mine. Always had been. Always would be. And as I wrote, I realized something that steadied me more than anything else. Lila might have left. But she hadn't taken the music with her. The music club always smelled the same, coffee gone stale, wires warming under too many amps, sweat soaked into couches nobody should sit on. Normally, that smell meant comfort. Familiarity. Tonight, it felt like walking into someone else's house. The room buzzed with chatter, strings being tuned, someone running scales on a keyboard. And at the center, exactly where I dreaded, were Lila and Adrian. She was perched on one of the stools, hair falling over her shoulders in a way she probably didn't even notice, laughing at something Adrian had just said. He leaned back, grin sharp and easy, hands moving as if the air itself bent around his stories. Everyone nearby was pulled in like moths to a flame. I hovered by the doorway for a second too long. Lila's eyes flicked to me, quick as a snap, then away again. Not a smile. Not even a proper hello. Just a curt nod, the kind you'd give a stranger who accidentally brushed your sleeve. My stomach tightened, but I forced my legs to move, weaving through the crowd until I found an empty corner. My guitar case thumped against the wall louder than I wanted. Nobody looked. Adrian's voice cut through the room, low but commanding. "So the showcase? It's not just a gig. It's a launch pad. You gotta walk in like you own it, right? Like the stage is built for you." Someone laughed. "Easy for you to say, Adrian." He smirked, adjusting the cuff of his jacket. "Confidence isn't easy. But it's magnetic. People feel it before they hear a note." Lila giggled, an airy sound that felt foreign in her mouth. It wasn't the laugh I remembered, the one that used to bubble out when I messed up a chord. This one sounded rehearsed, like she was trying it on for size. I sat down, unpacking my guitar. The strings greeted me like old friends, even if my hands were stiff. I tuned in silence, eyes fixed on the pegs, pretending not to hear the way the whole room gravitated toward him. Rehearsal split off into smaller groups. Adrian slung his arm casually over the back of Lila's stool as they worked through a new set piece. His voice carried, smooth and rich, weaving with hers in a way that made people stop what they were doing just to listen. The spotlight wasn't even on, but somehow it found them anyway. I sat cross-legged on the floor, notebook balanced on my knee, guitar leaning against me. My pen scratched across paper. The melody in my head was stubborn, raw, refusing to be ignored. Still, my ears betrayed me, drifting to their voices. Adrian strummed a progression. "See, this is where we build it up, big, theatrical. Not that coffeehouse vibe, but the kind that grabs a stadium." I froze. Coffeehouse. He'd said it like an insult, and I knew who it was aimed at. Sure enough, his eyes flicked toward me for just a second, lips quaking like he'd made some private joke. Lila laughed. Too easily. Too loud. Heat burned the back of my neck. I pressed my pen harder into the page, ink smudging beneath my hand. I didn't look at them again. Couldn't. Instead, I buried myself in my song. The chords weren't flashy. The melody wasn't the kind to make a crowd roar. But it felt true. Every note hummed with something I couldn't say out loud. I scribbled lyrics in the margins. Not all fires blind. Some burn quietly. Some burn forever. The words steadied me, each line a railing to hold onto in the storm. But even as I worked, fragments of their rehearsal bled through, the rise of Lila's voice, the effortless way Adrian drew her in. It was like watching a dance I used to know the steps to but had been shoved out of. Once, that laugh was mine. Once, those harmonies belonged to us. I remembered nights when we'd huddle over the same notebook, shoulders touching, bickering over rhymes until we dissolved into laughter. I remembered the way she used to look at me after a line landed right, eyes shining like we'd struck gold. Now she looked at Adrian that way. And me? I was invisible. The ache tried to claw its way higher, but I shoved it down. Competing for attention here was pointless. The spotlight wasn't mine to chase, not anymore. And maybe that was okay. I picked up my guitar, letting the notes rise quietly above the noise. Not loud. Not demanding. Just honest. The sound didn't pull the room's eyes like theirs did, but it didn't matter. For the first time since everything cracked, I didn't want it to. The night wound down in fragments. People packed up cables, laughter echoing as they spilled into the street. Adrian's arm brushed Lila's as they left together, voices fading into the night. I stayed behind, gathering my things slowly, carefully, like every second mattered. The club lights flickered overhead, humming faintly. "They can have the spotlight," I whispered to myself, sliding my notebook into my bag. I tightened my grip on the guitar case. I'll build my own fire. One that can't be switched off. And with that, I walked out into the night. David was the one who pushed me to go. You can't hide forever, he said, leaning against my desk while I tuned my guitar for the 100th time. Besides, you need to see it. See what you're up against. I almost laughed. As if I didn't already know. But his tone was steady, his eyes sharp with something like a challenge. So I went. Adrian's apartment was nothing like mine. High ceilings, wide windows spilling neon from the city, music pulsing so loud the floor vibrated. Strings of LED lights tangled along the walls like electric vines, casting everything in shifting blues and reds. People pressed shoulder to shoulder, drinks in hand, voices climbing over each other in shallow bursts of laughter. The air smelled like expensive cologne and something sweeter underneath, success, or the illusion of it. I froze at the threshold, my skin prickling. David nudged me forward. Don't look like a deer in headlights, he muttered. Just, blend. Blend. Right. Easier said than done. Adrian stood at the center like he owned gravity itself. One arm draped around the back of the couch, his smile effortless, drawing people in without trying. His jacket shimmered faintly under the shifting lights. And beside him, Lila. She looked different under his glow. Hair styled sleek, makeup sharper than I'd ever seen her wear, a glass of something golden in her hand. She laughed at something he whispered in her ear, head tipping back just slightly. For a second, my chest caved in. She didn't look at me. Not once. We pushed through the crowd. Someone handed me a drink I didn't want. Conversations washed over me, talk of gigs, of labels sniffing around, of image consultants and branding. Raw talent's great, a guy in a leather jacket said, but without the right look, forget it. Another chimed in, Adrian knows. He's got the connections. I sipped the drink just to keep my hands busy. It burned, bitter and cloying. I tried to mingle, but it was like walking invisible. Eyes flicked past me the second I said my name. Recognition only lit when they realized I wasn't part of Adrian's orbit. The smiles were too quick, the nods too shallow. David stayed close, thank God, but even he couldn't buffer the sting. Eventually, I drifted toward the kitchen just to breathe. That's when she found me, or maybe stumbled into me. Elias, Lila said, her voice careful, polite. Her dress shimmered under the lights, a pale silver that made her look untouchable. Her smile was tight, almost apologetic, but her eyes darted away before I could search them. Hey, I managed. The word felt brittle. How've you been? She asked, as if we hadn't sat across from each other writing songs just weeks ago. As if she hadn't cut me out of our dream with one glittering announcement. I opened my mouth, but she was already scanning the crowd behind me. Excuse me, she said quickly, and disappeared before I could answer. The room seemed louder after that. Music throbbed against my skull. Adrian's laugh sliced through the air, pulling her back into its orbit. I caught sight of them from across the room, his hand brushing her elbow, her head bent close to hear him over the noise. Her laugh again, brighter this time, like she wanted the whole room to hear. Something in me cracked, sharp and final. I slipped onto the balcony for air. The city stretched below, neon and steel, restless and endless. Above, the faintest stars blinked through the haze. I leaned against the railing, trying to steady my breath. My fingers itched for my guitar, for something real. Instead, I clutched the glass in my hand until the condensation dripped cold down my wrist. She was gone. Not just physically, gone in a way I couldn't reach anymore. And maybe I had to accept that. I left without saying goodbye. David shot me a worried look but didn't argue. Back in my room, the silence felt like a relief. I sat at my desk, phone in hand. Her profile glowed on the screen, photos of her from tonight already uploaded. Her dress, her smile, Adrian at her side. The comments flooded in, Queen, rising star, unstoppable. My thumb hovered. My chest ached. Then I did it. Block. the confirmation screen popped up. My heart pounded as if I'd severed something alive. I dropped the phone face down, breath ragged. It felt like cutting off a limb. But also, somehow, like the first breath I'd taken in weeks. I went to the window. The stars were faint but steady, holding their ground above the city's glow. If she wants the spotlight, I whispered, she can have it. I pressed my palm against the glass, cool and grounding. I'm done standing in the shadows. The rehearsal room was buzzing when I walked in, my guitar case heavy in my hand. Cables curled across the floor like black veins. Microphones stood abandoned, leaning against their stands. The air was thick with tuning notes, fragments of songs, and bursts of laughter from the clusters of students scattered around. My chest tightened the second I stepped inside. Eyes flicked my way, quick, darting glances that said more than words ever could. I caught fragments of whispers. Isn't that the guy Lila ditched? Adrian's got her now. Shame, he's talented but soft. I tightened my grip on the case handle and kept walking, each step loud in my ears. This was supposed to be mine too. The stage. The music. I refused to surrender it just because they'd stolen her. Adrian made his entrance like he was late on purpose. The door swung wide, his laughter spilling in before him. A trail of admirers followed, feeding on his energy like moths to light. Relax, relax, he said, clapping one guy on the shoulder. The star has arrived. The room laughed with him, too loud, too eager. And then came Lila. She walked beside him, not behind. Her smile was small but steady, her eyes shining under the fluorescence. She brushed hair from her face, tilted her head at something Adrian whispered. She didn't look at me. But I knew she knew I was there. Rehearsal began with chaos, everyone talking over each other, shuffling instruments, testing mics. I sat cross-legged with my guitar, tuning carefully, trying to block out the noise. When my turn came, I almost passed. My throat was tight, palms damp. But something in me rebelled. This was my space too. So I started to play. The song was one I'd written months ago, under starlight on my balcony. Soft chords, lyrics about holding on to something fleeting but real. My voice shook at first, but the guitar steadied me. The melody unfurled, gentle but firm, and the room grew quieter than I expected. I saw a few people shift, listening. Heads tilted, eyes softening. For a second, I let myself believe. Then Adrian's laugh cut through the silence. "That's sweet, man," he said, leaning back against the amp with a smirk. "Really sweet. But this isn't a coffee shop open mic too sentimental." The room rippled with laughter. Not everyone meant it, I could tell, but enough joined in to make my skin burn. I froze mid-chord. Adrian leaned forward, voice dripping with mockery. "Audiences want energy, Elias. They want something they can move to, not lullabies." Laughter again. Louder this time. And then she spoke. "Lila." "Yeah," she said lightly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Maybe something a bit more modern." Her voice was casual, almost kind, but it hit harder than his jeer. Because hers had once been the voice that told me I was brilliant. That we could conquer the world with my songs. That my words mattered. Now it was the voice dismissing me, echoing his. My stomach dropped. My fingers went slack against the strings. Adrian plucked a guitar from the stand and strummed a loud, flashy riff. The kind designed to impress, not to last. He bent the notes sharp, and made the room cheer. "See?" he grinned. "That's what gets people's blood pumping." Applause broke out, shallow and hollow, but still enough to drown me. My song, the one born under stars, the one I believed in, was already forgotten. Heat climbed my neck, shame and fury twisting together until I could barely breathe. I wanted to scream, to tell them all they didn't understand. That music wasn't just noise, it wasn't just glitter and swagger. But then I looked at her. Lila stood beside Adrian, clapping, smiling faintly. And I understood. She had chosen. The room blurred, voices muffled under the thud of my heartbeat. My hands moved on their own, packing my guitar carefully back into its case. Every snap of the latches felt like a nail sealing something shut. I didn't say a word. Not to Adrian, not to her, not to anyone. I stood, slung the strap over my shoulder, and walked out. Outside, the sunlight was fading, painting the pavement gold and red. The air was cooler, quieter. I stopped at the curb, my guitar weighed against my back, and exhaled slowly. They could have their noise, their fleeting fame. My music wasn't for them anymore. As I walked, the strings inside the case hummed faintly with each step, like a heartbeat. If they want noise, I murmured, let them drown in it. I tightened my grip on the strap, eyes fixed on the horizon where the first stars were blinking awake. I'll carve my own silence into song. The clock read past midnight, but sleep refused to come. I sat at my desk, staring at the guitar leaning against the chair like a silent companion. My hands itched to play, but every time I tried, the chords tangled with memories of the rehearsal, the laughter, Adrian's smirk, Lila's voice siding against me. The stars blinked faintly through my window, swallowed by the city's glow. They looked tired, as if they too were fighting to hold their ground. That's when the phone buzzed. The screen lit her name. Lila. I froze. My first instinct was to let it ring out, to let silence answer for me. But my thumb betrayed me, sliding across the screen. Hello. My voice was rough, quiet. Elias? Her voice was soft, hushed, as if she didn't want someone overhearing. Guilt threaded through the syllables, but so did something else, something steadier. For a second, all I could hear was her breathing. Then. I shouldn't call this late. But. I needed to. I leaned back in my chair, eyes on the faint stars. What do you want, Lila? She sighed, a sound heavy with tension. About earlier. At rehearsal. I know Adrian was harsh. He didn't mean it like that. He's just, passionate. And he sees things in a bigger picture. Bigger picture, I echoed flatly. Yes. He has connections. Opportunities one can't waste. You should understand that. Her words quickened, rising with urgency. Don't be bitter. You know how hard it is to get noticed. He can open doors for me, for us. But I caught the slip. For me. For us. She wasn't sure which she meant. My chest tightened, but not the way it used to when she spoke. This wasn't the warmth of nights writing songs under starlight. This was cold recognition. You think his connections will save you? I asked quietly. They already are, she pressed. Labels, venues, people who matter, they listen when Adrian speaks. That's how the industry works. You can't just play sentimental ballads and expect the world to care. Her words stung, sharper because once she believed the opposite. Once she told me my songs were the world. Now she spoke like Adrian, his voice echoed through hers. I swallowed hard, then said, connections fade. Music lasts. Silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like a curtain falling. I almost thought the line had dropped, until I heard her inhale sharply. Elias, she whispered. Don't say it like that. You make me sound shallow. I didn't respond. She pushed on, voice trembling now. I'm under pressure. Everyone expects me to succeed. Adrian, he knows how to guide me. He believes in my potential. Don't you want me to succeed? Her question was cut. Of course I wanted her to succeed. But not like this. Not at the cost of everything we promised each other. We used to talk about music that lasted, I said, voice steady. About writing songs people would remember after the lights went out. That's what I still want. That's all I've ever wanted. She was quiet. I pictured her twisting the phone cord around her fingers, frowning the way she did when she knew she was wrong but wouldn't admit it. Then, softly, we could still, maybe someday, find our way back. You and me. Just, not right now. There it was. The truth in her voice. She wanted me as a shadow, a safety net. Something waiting in case the spotlight burned too hot. I felt my grip on the phone loosen. No, Lila, I said finally. I won't wait in your shadow. Her breath hitched. Elias. But I ended the call. The click echoed in my room like the closing of a door. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the blank phone screen. My chest was heavy, but beneath the ache, there was clarity. I picked up my guitar. The strings were cool under my fingertips, but as I strummed, warmth bloomed in the sound. Soft at first, then firmer. The melody was new, unshaped, but it belonged to me alone. Her voice faded, but the strings stayed true. And for the first time in weeks, I felt steady. The morning was quiet. For once, I didn't reach for my phone. I let it buzz somewhere on the nightstand while I sat with my guitar across my lap, fingers plucking absent strings. The notes were half-born, scattered, but they were mine. The silence wrapped around me like a blanket, fragile but real. Until the buzzing grew too insistent. I sighed, set the guitar aside, and picked up the phone. And there she was. Notifications flooded my screen. Group chats alive with links. Mentions, tags, even messages from people I barely knew. All pointing to the same thing. Lila and Adrian. Their performance last night. The headlines screamed in curated fonts. The duo of the future. Lila's breakthrough performance with Adrian Vega. Star power rising. My stomach twisted as I tapped the video link. The screen exploded with lights and sound. Adrian strutted on stage like he owned it, jacket glittering, grin sharp. His guitar screamed under the spotlight, all flash and fire. Beside him, Lila. Silver dress, hair shining, makeup perfect under the stage glow. Her voice soared, strong and clear, practiced to perfection. The crowd roared, hands raised like worship. I stared, unable to look away. She was radiant. But she wasn't. Her eyes didn't hold the warmth I remembered from nights under the stars. Her smile was wide but brittle, stretched like a mask. It was beautiful. It was hollow. Memories clawed up, uninvited. The first time we performed together, our voices shaking, our chords messy, our timing all wrong. But we laughed, breathless, because it was ours. Because every mistake carries a heart. I remembered her whispering after, they'll remember us someday. Not because we're perfect, but because we're real. I looked back at the screen. This Lila was perfect. And unrecognizable. The comments flooded beneath the video. Adrian and Lila, unreal chemistry. She's going to be huge. Finally, music with style. They're unstoppable. Each word burned, but not the way I expected. It wasn't jealousy, it was grief. Grief for the Lila I'd lost. The one who scribbled lyrics on napkins. The one who swore the stars belonged to us. The one who believed music was more than fame. That Lila was gone. I locked my phone and set it face down. My chest ached, but there was no fire left in it, only ashes. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even jealous. I was mourning a ghost. The room was still. I reached for my guitar again. The wood was warm against my palm, the strings familiar under my fingers. I strummed softly, a new progression forming, raw and unpolished. It didn't matter. It was mine. The sound filled the silence, steady, grounding. I glanced at the window. Daylight dimmed the stars, but I knew they were there, patient, waiting. Her mirror was fame. Mine would be music. I let the melody guide me forward, one note at a time. The music club smelled different when you knew you were leaving. I stood in the back room, stuffing sheet music into my battered case, winding chords, lifting my guitar with a care that bordered on reverence. Around me, whispers rose and fell like background noise. Is he really leaving? Guess Adrian and Lila won. No, maybe he's smarter than all of us. The words slid past me, cutting and softening at once. I didn't answer them. My silence was its own statement. The posters on the walls, upcoming gigs, flashy advertisements with Adrian's grin and Lila's sparkle, looked like relics of another world. A world I'd already begun to step out of. David leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. His steady gaze anchored me. You sure about this, Eli? I zipped my case. I have to be. He nodded slowly. That retreat, small, maybe, but it's clean air. People there care about the music, not the show. You'll breathe again. I swallowed, throat tight. That's all I want. To breathe. He clapped my shoulder. Then go. Let them drown in their glitter. You'll rise higher. His words settled in me like an echo I needed. I thought I'd escape quietly, but fate, or pride, wouldn't let me. She was waiting outside. Lila leaned against the railing of the stairwell, arms crossed, every inch of her radiating ease that felt too rehearsed. The glow of her phone screen lit her face. When she saw me, she tucked it away with a smirk. So, she began, tilting her head, it's true. You're running away. The words stung, not because they were true, but because once, she'd been the one I'd run toward. I steadied my breath. I'm not running. I'm rising. Her laugh was sharp, brittle beneath its melody. Rising? To what? A campfire retreat in the middle of nowhere? While Adrian and I are building something real. Real? I repeated. Is that what you call it? Her eyes flashed. Don't be bitter, Elias. Connections matter. That retreat won't give you an audience. Adrian will. I gripped the strap of my guitar, feeling its weight anchor me. Connections fade. Music lasts. Her smirk faltered, but only for a breath. She looked away, adjusting her jacket, a flicker of discomfort breaking through her polished facade. Suit yourself, she said finally. Just don't come crawling back when you realize the world moved on without you. I won't crawl, I answered quietly. I'll climb. I left her standing there, swallowed by neon shadows. The bus station was a blur of sound and motion. I boarded with my guitar in one hand, a small bag in the other. The city outside was loud, alive, suffocating. As the bus pulled away, its lights blurred into streaks, fading behind me. I pressed my forehead to the glass. The stars revealed themselves slowly as the city glow thinned. They felt like old friends waiting patiently for me to look up again. For the first time in months, my chest loosened. The retreat was nothing like the world I'd left. A quiet town hugged by hills, air cool with pine and smoke. The buildings were modest, cabins with peeling paint, a main hall with wide windows, a fire pit glowing outside where figures sat with guitars. Laughter carried in the night, unpolished and honest. I stepped off the bus, my shoes crunching gravel. My guitar case felt lighter here. Someone waved, an older man with silver hair and a harmonica hanging from his neck. His smile was weathered, easy. Welcome, he said. Here, it's just about the music. Nothing else. I nodded, throat thick. That was all I needed. That night, I sat near the fire, guitar in hand. The flames flickered, shadows dancing across unfamiliar but kind faces. I played softly, almost hesitantly at first. Then stronger, the melody threading through the smoke and stars. Nobody judged. Nobody compared me to anyone else. For the first time, the music breathed again. Later, I wrote in my journal by lantern light. My hand shook, but the words came steady. I'm not running. I'm rising. And I won't look back. The stars outside glimmered like punctuation. The morning light here was different. It wasn't the electric haze of billboards or the sterile glow of practice rooms in the city. It was softer, filtered through pine trees, brushing across wooden beams and creaking floors. I sat up in my small dorm bed, listening. Birds, not sirens. The faint strum of a guitar somewhere outside. The smell of coffee drifting in from the main hall. For the first time in months, waking didn't feel heavy. The practice hall was alive when I walked in. Not polished alive, not rehearsed. Alive like sparks flying from a fire. A trio huddled near the piano, laughing as they stumbled over chords. A girl scrawled lyrics on butcher paper taped to the wall, her handwriting wild. Someone banged out a drum rhythm on nothing but a desk. The floor was scuffed, the air thick with mismatched notes, and it was beautiful. I slipped my guitar from its case, hesitating a moment before joining the circle forming near the center. Jump in, someone said, a tall guy with dreadlocks and a battered trumpet. His grin was all invitation, no judgment. So I did. The first chord I played was off. Someone laughed, not cruel, just joyous, and kept going. Soon the room pulsed with a rhythm that wasn't planned but felt inevitable. I lost myself in it. My fingers danced, not to impress, but to belong. Notes that once felt heavy now leapt free, weaving with the trumpet's calls, the piano's runs, the violin's trembling arcs. And for the first time since Lila turned her back, I smiled while playing. Not forced, not masked. Real. Later, sitting against the wall with sweat cooling on my skin, I pulled out my phone. Old habits die hard. The feed lit up instantly. Adrian plus Lila, exclusive photo shoot. We're the voice of a new generation, says Adrian Vega. Lila stuns in a golden gown at a benefit concert. I tapped one of the clips. There she was again, glittering under spotlights, Adrian at her side. They moved like they'd rehearsed every breath, every glance. The comments poured in. Unstoppable duo. Finally, some real stars. They're flawless. But between the praise, a few comments snagged my attention. Feels overproduced. All image, no heart. Does she even sing like she used to? My chest tightened. I watched her smile, perfect, unshakable, unreachable. That wasn't the girl who once whispered, "Let's write songs no one forgets." That was a brand. I locked the phone and shoved it deep in my pocket. The sounds of the hall called me back, the violinist now bowing a gentle tune, the trumpet weaving softer notes around her melody. I pulled my guitar close, and something shifted. A song began to take shape, not about her, not about loss, but about this. About the fire pit nights, the raw chords, the way freedom tasted here. I scribbled lyrics on a scrap of paper. Under the stars, I breathe again. Not for mirrors, not for them. Music's flame, my only friend. I played it softly. The hall was still. When I finished, the silence broke into genuine applause, not the forced kind, not the showy kind. Honest. A girl with ink-stained fingers grinned. Play that again tomorrow night by the fire. People need to hear it. That night, under the wide-open stars, I thought of her, of the world she'd chosen. She had fame's mirror of fame. I had music's flame. And for once, I didn't feel smaller. I felt free. The venue hummed with nerves. Not the suffocating hum of neon lights and paparazzi flash, but the real kind, the jittery tuning of guitars, the squeak of violin bows, the nervous chatter of kids clutching sheet music. I carried my guitar case through the crowded hallway, heart steady. This competition wasn't massive. No magazine headlines, no TV cameras. But it mattered. It was a place where music still lived raw, beating in the chest of every performer. I had come here with two of the retreat musicians, a violinist named Kara and a drummer called Joel. Their easy banter steadied me. We were here for music, not spectacle. That truth wrapped around me like armor. Until I heard her laugh. It sliced through the air like a chord I'd played 1,000 times. I froze, the weight of the guitar strap biting into my shoulder. Then I saw her. Lila, gliding down the corridor with Adrian at her side. Their entourage trailed behind, stylists fussing with her hair, assistants juggling phones, someone carrying a case that gleamed like it had never been touched. She looked different. Glittering, yes. Dazzling. But up close, the dazzle dimmed. Her makeup was heavy, too heavy, hiding shadows beneath her eyes. Her smile was perfect but didn't touch the corners. And when her gaze landed on me, that smile faltered. "Elias," she said, stopping short. I lifted my chin. "I didn't think you'd remember places like this." Her laugh was quick, rehearsed. "Of course I do. Competitions like these, they're where we started, right?" I studied her. The girl who once hummed under starlight felt far away, buried beneath sequins and scripts. "Yeah," I said. "Except back then, we weren't brands." Her eyes flickered. Adrian leaned in, whispering something that made her nod too quickly. She glanced back at me. "We should catch up later." I shrugged. "If you can find the time." When she walked away, entourage in tow, I exhaled. My hands weren't shaking. My chest wasn't caving in. Not this time. Their performance came first. Adrian strutted across the stage, hair perfect, jacket flashing under the lights. His grin was sharp enough to cut glass. Lila followed, shimmering in gold, her voice soaring through the speakers. The crowd cheered, dazzled. But beneath the polish, I heard nothing. No heart, no cracks, no truth. Just perfection, hollow and brittle. The applause thundered. But it was applause for a show, not for music. Then it was my turn. I walked onto the stage with nothing but my guitar. No glitter, no entourage. Just wood and strings, calluses on my fingers, and a song born by the firelight of the retreat. The first chord echoed soft but steady. I sang, not about fame, not about her, but about breathing free, about stars that didn't burn out. The hall grew still. I felt the silence lean in, felt the weight of every ear listening, not watching. When the last note faded, the applause was different. Warmer. Real. Backstage, she found me again. Her mask had slipped. Up close, her eyes looked tired, rimmed with something too close to regret. I missed that," she whispered. I held her gaze, steady. "What?" "The way we used to sound. Before all this." She gestured vaguely toward the lights, the entourage, the noise. "Sometimes I wonder what we could have been." I gripped my guitar case tighter. "I don't wonder," I said. "I know. And it's gone." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but nothing came. I turned, the weight of the guitar grounding me. Each step away felt lighter. As I walked out into the cool night air, I thought of the stars. She was trapped in fame's mirror, exhausted beneath its glass. But I was free. The first message came at 1:13 a.m. I woke to the buzz of my phone on the nightstand, the glow piercing the dark. For a moment, I thought it might be David, or someone from the retreat. It was her. It's not what I thought. No greeting, no name. Just that. I stared until the words blurred. Then I set the phone face down and went back to sleep. By the third night, the messages stacked like bricks. I can't sleep anymore. You were right about connections. I don't know who I am on stage anymore. I read them, each one a stone dropped into my chest. But I didn't reply. My silence was the only kindness I could give. The calls began next. Voicemails filled with shaky laughter that broke into silence. One where her voice cracked, words tumbling too fast. Elias, I thought this was a dream. Adrian has the lights, the stage, the world, but it doesn't feel like mine. It feels like I'm disappearing. Please, just tell me you understand. I listened once. Then I deleted it. Not out of cruelty. Out of survival. Instead of chasing echoes, I went home. The bus ride carried me away from the retreat's pine air, back to the modest streets I'd grown up on. My father's house was the same, white paint chipped at the corners. The porch creaking when I stepped on it. He opened the door with tired eyes that brightened the moment he saw me. Elias, he said, pulling me into a hug that smelled of coffee and sawdust. You look taller. I laughed. I'm 20, Dad. Still counts. Inside, the air was warm with the scent of stew simmering on the stove. Old vinyl records leaned against the shelf, their sleeves worn. One spun now, a crackling jazz tune that had once filled every corner of my childhood. We sat at the table, bowls between us, steam curling. How's the music? He asked. I hesitated, then smiled. Alive. For the first time in a while. He nodded. His gaze softened in that way that told me he was thinking of her, my mother. She used to say music should last, he murmured. Not shine quick and die. Last. The word settled into me like roots deepening in soil. Later, I sat on the porch with my guitar, the wood warm against my palms. My father leaned in the doorway, watching. You know why you're here, he said simply. I strummed a chord. Yeah. I do. But the world wouldn't let me forget her. My phone buzzed again the next morning. This time, I didn't open the message right away. Instead, I scrolled through the feed. Photos of Lila, hair perfect but eyes shadowed. Headlines about strained rehearsals, whispers of fights with Adrian. A video clip from a live show where her voice cracked mid-song, the crowd murmuring. The comments turned sharper. She looks exhausted. Adrian's carrying them now. Fame's burning her out. Her mask was cracking, and the world was watching. That night, another voicemail. Longer. Her voice trembled, softer than I'd ever heard it. I thought I was choosing forever. Instead, I lost it. I lost us. I don't even know if I can find my way back. Do you still think of me? I sat on the porch, stars overhead, the phone glowing in my hand. I listened once. Then set it down. The silence between us was my answer. The guitar felt heavier tonight, but the notes rang steady. I played until my fingers ached, until the night hummed with music instead of ghosts. I whispered into the strings, I know why I'm here. And her voice became nothing more than desperation's echo. The folder glowed on my laptop screen like a wound I hadn't cleaned. Twin stars. I clicked it open. Inside were the fragments of a life that felt like someone else's, demos we recorded in my bedroom, shaky live recordings where our harmonies stumbled, voice memos of laughter tangled with off-key notes. Lila's voice crackled through the speakers when I hit play on one file, again, Elias, again. We'll get it right this time. Then my younger self answered, eager, breathless, twin stars, remember? Always together. The cursor hovered over, delete. My finger trembled. Outside, the night pressed against the window, stars faint but stubborn above the city haze. Once, we believed they belonged to us. I drew a breath, steady, and clicked. The screen blinked. The folder vanished. It felt like watching constellations flicker out, leaving only the endless dark. But memory is sly. It doesn't disappear when you tell it to. I closed my eyes, and there it was again, the rooftop where we first made the promise. We'd been 16, guitars across our laps, the summer air sticky with heat. 2 stars, Lila had whispered, pointing upward. That one's you, and this one's me. No matter what, we shine together. Her hand had brushed mine. The night had seemed infinite. Now, years later, I whispered to that memory, goodbye. And for the first time, I meant it. At the retreat, I stopped standing at the edge. I joined jam sessions where the air pulsed with rhythm, raw and unpolished. Drums rattled against bass lines, voices clashed and soared, and my guitar threaded through the noise like it had finally found a home. In feedback circles, others tore my songs apart with honesty I craved. Too safe, one said. Go darker. Another leaned forward, eyes sharp, you've got a voice, Elias. Stop hiding it. I didn't shrink. I wrote harder. I played louder. Late at night, we crowded into kitchens, bowls of noodles steaming, laughter echoing against the walls. We talked about why we created. One girl said music was her escape from silence, another said it was the only thing her father ever praised her for. I listened. I shared. For once, I didn't think of Lila while strumming my chords. The music was mine. But the world has a way of dangling the past in front of you. Scrolling one morning, I saw her name across headlines. Lila Vega misses rehearsals amid rumors of rift with Adrian Vale. Pop darling or prisoner? Inside the strain of sudden fame. Paparazzi photos followed, her eyes rimmed red, hair undone, Adrian leading her by the arm like a prop. In one video clip, she stumbled on stage, her voice faltering mid-note, the crowd's murmurs audible over the mic. The comments swarmed. She looks exhausted. Fame's eating her alive. Where's the spark she used to have? I scrolled once more, then shut the screen. Her unraveling wasn't mine to mend. That night, under the vaulted wooden beams of the retreat's hall, I played a new song. Others gathered around, some with instruments, some just listening, swaying. The melody climbed, unforced, rising like sparks against the night. Their voices joined mine, weaving into something whole. I felt no shadow at my back, no chain around my throat. Just music. Alive. The last chord lingered, humming in the air. I let it fade, and in the silence, I heard only my own voice. The chords were severed. And for the first time, the silence felt like freedom. The first notes I heard from Anna weren't soft, they were fire. I had wandered into the retreat's music hall late one evening, guitar slung over my back, looking for solitude. Instead, I found the room pulsing with piano. Not the polished kind you hear in competitions, but something raw and alive. Her fingers moved with precision, yet every strike carried weight, like each note was pulled straight from the earth. I froze in the doorway. She looked up, caught me staring, and smiled, not embarrassed, not guarded, just open. Sorry, she said, voice light. I get carried away. I stepped closer. Don't apologize. That was real. Her name was Anna. We talked after she finished playing, sitting on the edge of the stage with instruments resting beside us. She told me she grew up with a piano teacher who drilled her with scales until her fingers bled, but it wasn't until she stopped competing that she actually heard music. What about you? She asked. I hesitated. I started with a friend. We thought we'd shine together. Her eyes softened. And now? Now, I said, my hand brushing the strings of my guitar, I just want music that lasts. The next day, we played together. Her piano was water, flowing steady. My guitar was fire, flickering and sharp. At first, we clashed, too many notes, rhythms pulling in different directions. Then Anna laughed, shaking her head. Again. But listen to me. Not just to yourself. So I listened. And something shifted. My chords wrapped around her keys, not suffocating but embracing. After a while, I pulled out a faded sheet of paper. My mom wrote this, I explained. She never finished it. Anna studied the melody, then placed her hands on the keys. What she played wasn't what was written, it was more. Gentle harmonies rose where the notes ended, a bridge forming where silence had once been. For a moment, my throat tightened. It was as if my mother's voice had been resurrected through Anna's hands. I played alongside her, tears burning at the corners of my eyes. Days turned into nights of collaboration. We wrote a new piece together, weaving her discipline with my instinct. Every phrase felt like breathing. It wasn't romance, not yet, but something deeper. A recognition. A trust. And then Lila returned. The message came mid-afternoon, meet me. Please. Just once. Against my better judgment, I went. We met in a small cafe off the main street. The place smelled of burnt espresso, the chatter around us dim. Lila sat at the corner table, oversized sunglasses doing little to hide her exhaustion. Her skin was pale, her posture collapsed. For the first time, she didn't look like a star, she looked like a person unraveling. Elias, she whispered, reaching for my hand. I didn't move. She tried to smile. Adrian and I, we're done. The label's pressuring me. I need something real again. I need you. Remember, twin stars. We can still be that. Please, come back. Help me make this right. Her voice trembled. For a heartbeat, I saw the girl I'd once believed in. But then I remembered the nights alone, the silence after betrayal, the way she had chosen the spotlight over the song. I leaned back, steady. You're chasing the spotlight, I said quietly. I'm chasing music that lasts. They're not the same. Her eyes widened, shimmering. So that's it? You'll just leave me here? I exhaled. You left first. The words hung heavy. I stood, placed a few coins on the table for my untouched coffee, and walked out. I didn't look back. That night, back at the retreat, Anna and I performed our piece for a circle of artists gathered in the hall. The piano's first notes rang clear, like morning light breaking through. My guitar answered, steady, sure. Together, the melody climbed and twisted, carrying my mother's echo into something new. When the final chord faded, the room was silent, then erupted with applause, voices cheering. I smiled at Anna. She smiled back, eyes shining not with glamour but with truth. And I realized, my story no longer belonged to Lila. It belonged to me. To this music. To the paths opening ahead. The old promise had ended. A new song had begun. The showcase had ended hours ago, but the music still thrummed in my veins. I sat outside on the retreat's back lawn, the grass cool against my palms, guitar balanced across my lap. Above me stretched a sky so wide it made my chest ache. Stars dotted the black, patient and unmoving. They weren't blinding like stage lights. They didn't flicker for attention or demand applause. They just were, steady, eternal. Once, I thought I was bound to another star. Twin lights, shining together. But now I know better. Stars don't need pairs. They burn on their own. I let my fingers drift across the strings, plucking a melody too soft for anyone but the night to hear. The betrayal still stung when I thought of it, the way she had accepted Adrian's offer without a word, the laughter she shared with him while I stood in silence, the way she begged for my understanding but never offered hers. It had cut me deeper than I wanted to admit. For a long time, it defined me. But tonight, under this endless sky, the wound felt less like a scar and more like a lesson. She taught me what I needed, I whispered to the dark. By leaving. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't need to look. I already knew. The last few weeks, her messages had been faint, short texts with too many ellipses, apologies that circled without landing. I missed the way we used to write together. Remember our first song? I still play it sometimes. I wish I could go back. Sometimes there were tags on social media, clips of old performances resurfacing with captions that seemed directed at me. I hadn't answered any of them. I wouldn't. Her voice had become an echo, familiar, but distant. The kind of sound that fades the moment you step into something louder, something alive. And I was alive now. The retreat had given me more than I'd expected. A community. Collaborations. Late nights where music wasn't pressure but joy. Anna's piano notes weaving with my chords, creating something that felt like breath and memory all at once. It wasn't about replacing Lila, it was about realizing she had never owned my dream. My mother's voice carried me here. Her belief in music that endured, not music that flared and died. For the first time, I felt aligned with that legacy. I strummed again, the sound carrying upward. A shooting star streaked across the horizon, fading quickly, but the others stayed, steady as ever. Fame was like that streak, bright, fast, gone. Stars were what remained. I lifted my face to the sky, inhaling the cool night air. My chest felt wide open, like the universe itself had made room for me. Fame burns, I said softly. Stars endure. And so will I. The words weren't a promise this time. They were the truth.